All right, so let's dive in today. We're going deep on urban design and pedestrian safety.
Some good.
We've got some excerpts from Dominic Nozzi's Substack.
Okay.
He's an urban designer and, gets people thinking about how we shape our cities.
Right.
You'll find he's got some strong opinions about prioritizing people over cars.
Hmm.
And it's more than just, adding a few bike lanes here and there.
It really is. What I find fascinating about Nazi's work is how he connects this idea of walkable neighborhoods to like a whole web of outcomes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it impacts transportation, but also quality of life, even public safety, which, might surprise some people.
Yeah, that's interesting. It made me think about an experience I had a while back.
Okay.
I was visiting a friend, and they lived in a city that was known for its walkable downtown.
Hmm.
And, I'm so used to driving everywhere.
Right.
But there I found myself walking to dinner, browsing shops, even just people watching in the park.
Oh, nice.
And it just felt different,
Yeah.
more connected somehow.
That's exactly what Nazi's getting at.
Interesting.
Walkable neighborhoods, when done right, reduce the need for car trips.
Okay.
You've got shops, housing work, all within walking distance, and because of that, it becomes more appealing to walk or bike.
Right.
So even if you could drive, you might not want to.
So it's not just about making it possible to walk.
Right.
It's about making it the desirable choice.
Exactly. And Nazi, he's not shy about advocating for very specific changes.
Yeah.
You'll see he's a big proponent of road diet,
Road diets.
which I admit it does sound a bit drastic.
Yeah, when I hear road diet, I think lane closures, gridlock. My blood pressure's rising just thinking about it.
I know, right? But it's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
It's about rethinking how we use road space.
Okay.
So often it involves reducing car lanes to make room for bike lanes, wider sidewalks, things like that.
I see.
What's counterintuitive is that it can actually improve traffic flow and safety.
Wait, how does less space for cars lead to better flow?
Well, think about it this way. With a road diet, you might have fewer lanes,
Okay.
but you also often have dedicated turning lanes, which reduces bottlenecks.
Oh.
Plus, when you encourage biking and walking, you just have fewer cars on the road in the first place,
Right.
easing congestion.
Okay. I'm starting to see the logic there.
Yeah.
Now, Nazi also cites this study titled More Dangerous in Suburbs Than in Cities.
Yeah.
That really caught my attention because that seems to go against everything we're told about safety.
It is. It's one of those findings that makes you reevaluate your assumptions.
Yeah.
The study found pedestrians are statistically more at risk in suburbs.
Really?
Wider roads encourage speeding.
Yeah.
Destinations are farther apart.
Mhm.
Fewer people are out and about, so drivers aren't as alert to pedestrians.
So even if you're just walking to the mailbox in the suburbs,
Yeah.
you're potentially at higher risk than someone navigating a busy city intersection.
Potentially, yeah.
That's wild.
It is, and this ties directly back to Nazi's philosophy. When you design for walkability, you naturally create an environment that's safer for everyone, not just pedestrians.
Okay.
Slower traffic speeds, more eyes on the street as people are out walking. It all contributes.
So wouldn't more foot traffic lead to, more opportunities for crime?
That's a common concern.
Yeah.
But Nazi actually points to this thing called the eyes on the street theory.
Okay.
So when you have more people out walking around, especially like a mix of residents, shopkeepers, people coming and going,
Yeah.
it creates this natural surveillance.
Okay.
Criminals are less likely to target areas where they might be seen,
So it's almost like having a built-in neighborhood watch just by virtue of how the space is designed.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just deterring crime, too.
Okay.
Nazi argues that walkable neighborhoods, they actually foster a stronger sense of community.
Okay.
When people are out and about, they bump into each other, they chat, they build relationships,
Right.
they become invested in their neighborhood's well-being.
It's like the difference between a neighborhood and just a collection of houses.
Yeah.
Nazi seems to be saying that good urban design can actually nudge us towards being better neighbors.
That's a great way to put it. And this idea of subtle influence is key to Nazi's work.
Okay.
He talks about how even seemingly small design choices can have this ripple effect on behavior.
Give me an example.
Sure.
I'm a bit skeptical that the width of a sidewalk could really change how people act.
Think about benches.
Benches.
Nazi argues for lots of well-placed benches,
Okay.
not just for resting,
Right.
but because they encourage lingering.
I see.
People sit, they chat, they observe their surroundings.
Okay.
So this seemingly simple element it contributes to that eyes on the street effect.
Right.
Creates a more welcoming atmosphere.
So it's not just about functionality.
Yeah.
It's about creating a space that invites people to stay and, engage with each other.
Precisely. Nozzi also talks about mixed-use development,
Mixed-use development.
which means having shops, residences, offices all in the same area.
I see.
This reduces the need for car trips,
Right.
but also creates a more vibrant street scene throughout the day.
So you've got people going to work, grabbing coffee, running errands, all contributing to that lively atmosphere.
Exactly. It creates a natural buzz that's often missing in areas zoned strictly for, residential or commercial use.
Now, in one of his articles, Nozzi calls modern roads war zones.
Yeah,
That's pretty strong language.
it is.
What's he getting at there?
Well, it's a provocative statement for sure,
Yeah.
but it reflects Nozzi's deep concern about the dominance of cars in our lives
Okay.
and how that impacts safety.
Mm-hmm.
He's not saying all cars are bad or anything,
Right.
but that our infrastructure often prioritizes speed and efficiency over the well-being of pedestrians and cyclists.
So it's not just about individual reckless drivers. It's
Yeah.
about a system that's designed in a way that makes these war zones almost inevitable.
Yeah. Exactly. Wide roads, long stretches without crosswalks. These design choices send a message
Yeah.
that cars have priority.
Interesting.
Nozzi argues that even well-intentioned safety measures can sometimes have unintended consequences.
Wait, how can safety measures backfire?
Well, he gives the example of wider roads. You might think more space, less chance of collisions.
All right.
But wider roads often lead to faster driving, which actually increases the risk of accidents.
Okay, I see his point.
Yeah.
It's like you're solving one problem but creating another one in the process.
Exactly.
It seems like he's advocating for a more holistic approach, where you consider the interconnectedness of all these factors.
Absolutely. Nozzi is constantly pushing us to think beyond simple solutions
Yeah.
and consider the broader impact of design choices. Are we really making things safer, or are we just shifting the risk from drivers to pedestrians?
This whole discussion is making me think about my own city.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a lot of areas that are pretty car-centric.
Yeah.
What would a Nazi-style makeover even look like in a place like that?
Well, Nozzi wouldn't suggest a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
Every city has its unique challenges and opportunities.
Mm.
But he'd likely start by looking at areas that could benefit from road diets,
Okay.
creating more connected pedestrian networks, maybe introducing mixed-use zoning in certain areas.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly small design tweaks
Yeah.
could actually ripple outward and change the whole character of a neighborhood.
It's about creating those spaces where people want to linger, connect, and feel a sense of ownership.
Yeah.
It's about reclaiming the streets from cars and making them places where people can thrive.
I love that idea. It's almost like he's saying, let's not just make our cities functional, let's make them delightful.
And that delight, that sense of joy in public spaces.
Yeah.
It's not just some frivolous extra.
Right.
It contributes to a sense of community well-being and ultimately to safer, more livable cities.
This has been an eye-opening deep dive into Nozzi's work.
Yeah.
It's one thing to read about these concepts in an article, but to hear you break it down and connect the dots, it really hits differently.
It's about seeing the patterns, the underlying philosophy that connects all these seemingly disparate ideas. And ultimately, it's about empowering you, the listener, to see your own city with fresh eyes.
Speaking of seeing things differently, remember that study about suburbs being more dangerous for pedestrians?
Right?
It really challenges those assumptions we have about where we're safe.
That's a key takeaway from Nozzi's work. He's constantly urging us to question our assumptions,
Yeah.
to look beyond the surface and consider the often unintended consequences of our design choices.
As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm starting to think about my own daily choices.
Yeah?
Do I automatically hop in the car, or could I walk or bike more often?
Right.
Do I support businesses that contribute to a walkable environment?
Those everyday choices, they add up.
Yeah,
They shape the kind of city we live in.
it's true.
Nozzi's work reminds us that we all have a role to play in creating the kind of future we want for our cities.
So as we move towards our final thoughts, we want to leave you with this question. So if walkable neighborhoods have all these benefits, safer, healthier, more vibrant, why aren't they more common?
Well, it's a question that gets to the heart of our, current infrastructure and honestly, a bit of inertia. Many cities are just built around the car,
Right.
and change is hard.
It is.
But it's not just about, concrete and asphalt.
Okay.
It's about mindsets too.
You mean like those ingrained habits of always jumping in the car, even for short trips?
Exactly. But also think about zoning laws.
Zoning laws.
A lot of cities have regulations that actually prevent mixed-use development.
Really?
They separate residential areas from commercial ones, which necessitates more driving.
So even if people wanted to walk to the store, the way the city is laid out might make that impossible.
Yeah, that's right. And then there's also the economic side.
Oh, right.
Developers might find it more profitable to build sprawling suburbs than dense walkable neighborhoods. It's a complex system with lots of moving parts.
So where do we even begin to shift things? It feels like a David versus Goliath situation.
Well, the good news is it's not as daunting as it seems.
Okay.
Remember, Nozzi's all about those small, incremental changes.
Yeah.
That can have a big impact over time.
Okay, so besides like the big picture stuff, zoning laws, what can individuals actually do?
Plenty. Start with your own habits.
Okay.
Choose to walk or bike whenever possible.
Right.
Support local businesses
Okay.
that contribute to a walkable atmosphere.
Like what kind?
You know, those cafes with outdoor seating, the bookstores that encourage browsing,
I see.
things like
It's
that.
almost like voting with your wallet, right?
Exactly.
Supporting the businesses that align with the kind of city you want to see.
Right. And don't underestimate the power of advocacy.
Advocacy.
You know, contact your local representatives.
Okay.
Voice your support for things like road diets, improved pedestrian infrastructure,
Right.
zoning changes that allow for mixed-use development.
So it's about both individual action and pushing for systemic change.
Yeah, it's a two-pronged approach.
It is.
And remember, you don't have to be an urban planning expert to make a difference.
Okay.
Simply observing your surroundings and asking questions is a great place to start.
Like what kinds of questions?
You know what works in your city,
Right.
what could be improved.
Interesting, as you're saying this, I'm picturing that one street in my neighborhood that's a nightmare to cross.
Oh, yeah.
5 lanes of traffic, speeding cars, no crosswalk in sight.
Ugh.
It's dangerous for everyone, drivers, pedestrians, everyone.
There you go. Now you're thinking like Nozzi.
Okay.
You're identifying a problem area
Right.
and starting to envision solutions.
Yeah, maybe it could be a charming, walkable street with cafes and trees.
Absolutely.
It's not just a pipe dream, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah,
Nozzi reminds us that cities are constantly evolving.
that's true.
They're a reflection of our choices, our priorities.
Mm-hmm.
If we demand better, if we work towards it, we can create those positive changes.
This whole deep dive has been like putting on a new pair of glasses.
Oh, I like that.
I'm seeing my city in a whole new light, not just the good and the bad, but the potential.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah,
Nozzi's not just giving us a critique.
right.
He's offering a hopeful vision.
A hopeful vision.
A vision of cities designed for people where walking is a pleasure, not a chore.
And it's a vision we can all contribute to.
We can.
Whether it's choosing to walk to the corner store instead of driving,
Right.
or advocating for safer streets for everyone.
It all starts with awareness.
Awareness.
Once you start seeing your city through this lens,
Yeah.
you'll be amazed at the possibilities that open up.
So as we wrap up our exploration of Dominic Nozzi's work, we want to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
We've talked about the big picture, the systemic changes.
Yeah.
But remember, it also comes down to your own choices, your own actions.
It does.
Mm.
Yeah.
Next time you're heading out, pause for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Could you walk or bike instead of driving?
Good question.
Could you support that local business that adds to the vibrancy of your neighborhood?
Right.
Could you be a voice for change in your community?
Love it.
Every small step you take is a step towards a more walkable, livable, and ultimately a more joyful city. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.